Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler from Melda Production, and today I want to talk about ER's early reflections in MTurboreverb. I'm going to try to explain what ERs are briefly, show you how you can use them, show you a few tricks like how you can get ERs from IRs, and explain what I'm talking about with that. And also I'll show you how I made like a custom device in MXXX using this. So here we go. If you don't know, ERs, I'm referring here to early reflections, and this is the part of a reverb that just the first few milliseconds. I believe was it 100 milliseconds or 250 milliseconds, maybe even depending on the source, what they define it as. But these are just the first hits when your voice or a sound goes from the direct source and it hits the wall and then comes back. So these are going to be your early reflections. So it might bounce off the floor, another one might come from the side wall, another one might come from the back wall, etc. Of course, some of these are going to reflect off the back wall to the ceiling, to the floor, etc. And that's going to give you your reverb sound. But the ones that just, bounce off perhaps one surface and comes back, these are your ERs. And the reason why, ERs, I said that right. The reason why you might want to use ERs instead of a whole reverb are a whole reverb can sometimes cloud your sound because it's too much. It lasts a long time, whereas the early reflections are only going to last a short time, maybe at most, like I said, 100 milliseconds or so. What these can do, though, is they can add a sense of space, they can add some width to your sound, and just a sense of realism. And sometimes you don't even need this. Like, let's say if you have drum samples that were recorded, they probably contain some early reflections in them. However, if you record your guitar direct or you're using a synthesizer, because everything is in the box, there's not going to be any kind of reflection information, so you want to add it. But of course, you may not want to add like tons of reverb all over your synth or something. But adding the early reflections could make it sound like, oh, maybe this was somehow recorded. So enough of that, let's get into it. I'm using this amp as before. I have M cabinet here. Sound dry just sounds like this. So you see, that's just right in your face. Sometimes that's okay for demonstrating things, but for a song, I don't know if I'd want to use that. It's too close. So let me show you some things that you can do. So we have MTurboreverb here. And the great thing is you have a lot of control over with MTurboreverb. On the Melda Production side, they actually have a video that talks about this in depth, but I want to show you more how you can use it. So we have these here, and I could go through them, but let's actually start from the default. So we have nothing here. The first thing I want to do is, you see here where it says LR1, this is the late reflections. I want to just turn this off. I don't need that. And turn the early-late ratio all the way to early. So now everything should be set up correctly, and I go to ER1. This is our first early reflections. You can actually use multiple, up to 4 if you want, but for now, let's start easy, and let's just do the first one. So we have some early reflections here. If I play it, it sounds almost like a light reverb. Now, these are just kind of random. You can actually drag these however you want. So let's say like, I'll move all these further back, like this, moving them here. And of course, you can control lots of different things with them, but you're probably thinking like, do I want to spend all this time moving all of these? Now, if I reduce the complexity to like 3, I can handle this. I can move these around manually. It's not, causing me too much trouble. But when you're getting up into like 30, this is a lot. And of course, I can randomize these like this. And we're getting different sounds. But you're probably thinking, yeah, this is still too much trouble. I don't want to go through all this random stuff. One thing we can do is look in the presets. So in the presets here, we have lots of different things like, let's say, large room 1. Dense room. Ooh, that seems like way too much. It's almost like a reverb. Let's see here. Room 1. I like that. It's nice and subtle. Small room. Bathroom. This is nice and subtle. At first, it's like, I don't really hear anything. But then put it on bypass. You hear that? It's like right in your ear. Another good thing with ERs, if you're playing with headphones, for guitar, it's really annoying when it's completely dry. Sometimes just putting these ERs, early reflections on here, can sometimes be nice, and it sounds a little bit more natural than what you'd get just straight out of a headphone. And I could go over all of these. There's other ones that are bigger, like here, like Huge Hole. If that's what you want. And so you can experiment and find the one you like in here. There's other things you can do with the decay here. The decay will actually make these later ones softer in volume, like this. You can barely hear the later ones. Move it up a bit. And if I turn it the other way, it's almost like it's going in reverse. So in that case, these are lower and these are higher in volume. So you can play with that if you want. You have the low pass, you have the high pass, you have modulation here, which can make kind of like a cool chorus sound, if that's what you like. I can demonstrate it here. So that's another thing you can play with. However, you might think, I have something I want already. I have like an IR, but it's just I don't want the let's say the late reflections. I don't want that tail on there. But how do I get that in here? I don't want to listen to it and try to move all these. It's going to take forever. One thing you can do is analyze the IR file. So this is a really, really good feature in MTurboreverb. So we can go into here and we can get something. If you're wondering, like, where do I get impulse responses? If we look here, this site called Open Air, and these have a bunch of free reverbs. So I downloaded this one for the demonstration. It's First Baptist Church, Nashville. See, they have a nice layout of it. They show you what it looks like, and then they have the impulse responses you can download for free. Attribution. Thanks, Adam Townsell, for making this video possible. Anyways, so we can go in here and click Analyze IR. We have this one here. Just click on it. There we go. And we have a few different versions. Here's another cathedral room. I don't know about this one. And you can play with these until you get them exactly as you like. You can use the widening here or here. Completely mono, or I can make it even wider than it already is. And of course the pre-delay. So now it's at 0, which means it's going to start here. But if I move it up like this, it's just going to add a delay before the early reflections start. So set that to taste. Now, hopefully this gave you a good idea what you could do. One thing I will show you that I really love, I love Alan Holdsworth and the multi-tap delays. So what I did before, let me turn this off for a second, was I used, where was it, in my delays, I used delay MB, and I created these presets like this. Actually, I'll do the lead one first. So these are all reverbs. And I was thinking like, I'll do it in here, but like moving all of these, even though it's 8 instead of 20, moving the complexity to 8, I was like, this is going to be a pain to line these up with this in here. Like, 29 milliseconds. Move it over 29 milliseconds. Here. If I did that in here, like, I'd drive myself crazy. I don't want to do that. But what you can do, which is a new feature, just go to the toolbar here, and I can click IR, and it will just let me spit out IRs here. So that's what I did here. And now I have IRs for all of these. All I have to do is go in here and click Analyze IR, try AH Clean 1. Actually, I'm still using the other one, sorry. Let's go into MTurboreverb here. There we go. So you can see I have that in there. And because of this, I decided, let me try to make a device. And of course, I could make one in here in MTurboreverb. There's lots of devices here. But I decided to make one in MXXX. And the reason is because there's a few things I can do with the banks, which I'll show you. So let's turn this off and let's turn this on. So this is the device I made. So you see we have this large room here. If I turn it off, on. So we have that, and then we have the other like multi-tap delays here. And a good thing is I can actually add the modulation like this. Etc. So let me show you how to do this quickly. Go to another one here. So we have MXXX. I want to take this and let's add our MTurboreverb. Pop this out just so we can see. Go to the default. This is exactly what we had before. Remember, just like before, disable the late reflection 1, turn down the early reflections, etc. Go to ER1. Now, one of the first things I want to do is just click Quick Learn, move wet dry together. Now we have wet dry switch for this. Easy enough. Pop this back out. Let's say I want the Allen Holdsworth delay. What I want to do is click Analyze IR File. Okay, let's take this one, AH clean. Okay. Just play it quickly, make sure it sounds good. If it's sounding the way we want, make sure everything here is okay. And what we're going to do now is create a bank. So if you haven't seen this before, let's go here. Let's just create 3 for the video. I don't want to take forever. So we have 3. Now we have a few different things here. Let's just create bank 1 and click save. Now next, what I'm going to do is just click here. Find it. Is it band 1? Yeah, MTurboreverb 1. And it seems here's like, what? There's too many parameters. Just go all the way to the bottom here and you'll find bank. I'll set this to banks mode. I know this is getting confusing, but make sure you have bank in here in MTurboreverb 1 bank and then go to the multi-parameter bank. This is a different bank. I'll set this to 3 because that's the number of banks we have. Set this to 1, 2, 3. And let's call this first one, what's it? AH1. Okay. Next one, maybe we'll do living room. And the last one we'll do like a hallway. Okay. Now we'll do the same thing. And this time, let's use a different IR. We can go into the presets. I said like a living room. So small. Do I have a living room? Let's use large living room. There we go. Let's listen to how this sounds. Okay, sounds good. Go to T reverb here, right click. It should be on bank 2 already. If it's not, you can just move it to bank 2 and click save. And then do one more. What was the last one? Actually, I should go into here and name this. Let's call this mode, just so I can see it here. And set this to bank name, so that way I can see it. That's living room. Move to the last one, hallway. And we're going to add hallway here. Do I have an example of a hallway? Corridor? That's close enough. I actually don't like the way that sounds. Let me see if I can find a bigger one. Don't I have a hallway or something? There's one. Okay. Okay, make sure this is on 3. It's on 2 now, so I'll set it to 3. Click save. Make sure this is not on interpolate values, and as I move this over, you see it's changing. This is the first one. second one the living room, and third one the hallway. And if we look in the edit screen, it looks terrible, but we can actually fix this. Let's add, let's say, another parameter on here before we fix what it looks like. You want to add some high pass. Actually, let's add some modulation. So first thing I want to do is click Learn here. Turn this on and off because I want it to turn on and off here. And then let's click the depth. Call this mod depth. Okay, we have the first one that's turning it on and off. Let's move this up. We have our mod depth, 0 to 100. Fine. Let's default it at 0. And also here, what I want to do is I want to make it so when I turn the mod depth to 0, it just turns this off, so I'm not wasting CPU. So we can take this value, move it up, and you see, here around 50% it moves. I'm going to click Control and just move it down. Move a little bit. Okay, right there where it turned off. Now when I click mod depth, as I get down to the bottom, it turns off. Move it up, it turns on. That's what I want. Next one, let's do like mod rate. So I'll just do quick learn here. See, that quickly just added it, and it put it in percentages for, or sorry, using the first parameter for me. That's fairly easy to do. But now, as you see, if I close this, you can see it. This looks like a huge mess. So let's clean this up just a little bit. Go in here, back in here. And we're going to go to, not there, this little pop-up here. I'm going to use the manager. I'm going to use set group, call this ER. Perfect. Do I want to put everything on the same? I could. Just do it for demonstration purposes. Let's leave that up there. Let's move this down. So I'll use the manager, move it down. Put this in the same row. Put this in the same row here. Now we have all three of these in the same row, and let's make this so you can actually use it. Instead of doing it like that, we can make a switcher, this, or selector. There we go. And we can switch between them here. But one of the things you'll probably notice is once I move the mod depth here, like, okay, I'm turning it on. If I switch from hallway to here, it turns it off, which, of course, is not good. I don't want that. And also maybe the dry wet, if I moved it down, hey, move back to 50 as soon as I change the mode. I don't want any of that. You're thinking, how can I change that? What you do is you go into the mode, right? And you see here like MP's update and root. I'm going to click that and MP's to update. This means the multi-parameters. So just click the number, actually add the number of the multi-parameter. So this wet dry, if I look, it's MP1. Like if I go back in there, I'm going to add 1. What other ones do I want to update? The mod depth, that's MP2. And the rate, that's MP3. And any other ones you want, just depending on the number. Okay, once I have that, I'm going to close it. So I can move this now. And now if I try to move from the hallway to the, the living room, look at the wet dry, stays in the same place. And I'll pop it out just so you can see the modulation, make sure that's working too. Modulation depth here, move it. Oh no, my modulation depth isn't working. I screwed something up. That's what I did. I put 23 instead of 3. So make sure you have the commas in here like this. Let's try this one more time. Now you see everything is working correctly. So that way you can make your own device like I did before with all sorts of different sounds in it here that you can It's fairly easy to use. I have quite a few different ER selections in here, and hopefully you enjoyed this and you'll get something out of it, and you can make your own device if you want. So if you have any questions about this or you want me to go more in depth about early reflections or late reflections, I can do that too. If you want that, leave me a comment down below, give me a thumbs up, and check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.